Hey gang, good evening. Welcome to the Silver Lining. It's Andy here, and my word, late night TSL generally brings a couple of characters out to play, and tonight is no exception. Lisa B is a character within the real estate landscape that has garnered a whole heap of fans. She does so much for a community that, it's undeniable the fact that she genuinely has a desire to care for people within her field of work. She is a mother. She is a human being. She has just had an operation recently, and yet she is with us tonight. Lisa, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Recovering from my operation, yes.
How's life post recovery with a teenager and COVID and restrictions and all of the above?
It's been actually good. In lots of different ways, just reassessing life and kind of goals and like lots of different things. It's been a time of self-discovery again, just having that time to switch off.
Yep.
And 2020 has definitely been a year of surprises. Lots of different things happened. Already. All right, you know what? I'm going to share something with you that I haven't told many people, right?
Go.
And this is a worldwide exclusive, right? I've only told probably about 5 or 6 people this. Okay, you ready?
Very good.
Drum roll. Go. Okay, I told you I had an appendectomy.
Yes.
So I had my appendix out, right?
Yes.
So on my birthday, I was really sick, really, quite ill. And went to the doctors. They said, look, you better go to the hospital. Went to the hospital. They said, did all the tests and everything. So I had a CT scan with the dye and everything, had all the tests, blood tests and everything, conclusive. It's your appendix. And anyway, so then I got the results back and they said, and we've also, after they did the operation, they said, we also took some of your bowel because it looked like there was, sorry, I'm going into a bit of detail here, but there was lesions and inflammation, all this sort of stuff. So had to wait 2 weeks for the results of that. And it all came back clear, right? I didn't even have anything wrong with my appendix.
What?
Didn't have anything wrong with my appendix.
Oh. It
was a misdiagnosis.
Wow.
Yes. So here I am, all psyched for 2020. Then, all these new business things I was doing and then, started that. Then COVID hit and I was like, all right, okay, I can deal with this. Okay. Just about to get stuck into all the business stuff again.
Yeah.
And then it's my birthday, had all these plans. My birthday, sick as a dog, so sick. Then ended up in hospital. And then, I had my appendix out for absolutely nothing. It was something else called diverticulitis. So you know what? 2020 is I just don't get surprised about anything anymore. It's like, I had my appendix out for nothing. What about you?
They robbed your appendix.
If it had been my kidney, if it had been my kidney or something, I would have thought something was suspicious. Like, there's some.
Well, they're just harvesting parts.
I thought it was, maybe it was sort of like some organ, scam or something. But you can't really do anything with your appendix. So, but anyway, so I went through all of that thinking, oh my God, there's something wrong. And then it was like, actually, there was nothing wrong. And I'm like, oh, that's good. And they're like, no, there's nothing wrong. And I'm like, you guys said it was conclusive with the CT scan and everything.
Wow.
Anyway, so it's just, I didn't need it. Well, I didn't need it and I didn't need it. You know what I mean?
Ouch.
So that was a worldwide. I haven't even told some of my family that. I haven't told my son. I only told about 4 or 5 people because you know what? I thought, there's nothing I can do about it. It's done.
True.
My son doesn't even know. He probably heard me just then. But, it was just like, you know what? I just won't bother telling anyone because I can't change it. I can't do anything about it. It's happened. And now I've got scars. I've got I'll always remember 2020.
Well, I'd like to say that it's pretty typical of the year thus far, right? you know, and this is the whole point around this second series, gang. For those of you that haven't tuned in before, this second series of The Silver Lining is all about the greatest comeback known to man, eradicating the language of writing off 2020, and really kicking off and firing back, and not laying down them guns until the fat lady sings, so to speak. And I think that is probably one of the more extreme 2020s we've had, when you go under the knife for no real good reason.
No reason whatsoever. Nothing.
Jeepers. That is a way to start off a show. There you go. Right. Let me recalibrate a sec. Now, so tell us, before we rock and roll into getting into some sort of serious stuff about how we can really sort of kick on for. Give us the MO on who Lisa B is. Give us the highlight reel, human first. Who is Lisa? What's the setup? Where have you come from, and why are you here now?
Where have I come from? Well, I've been in real estate for a long time. My early 20s, opened up my own real estate office. Well, worked for somebody for a short time, only about, I think it was less than a year. Then took over their business, and so had an office very young with staff and all that sort of thing, and hadn't been in real estate very long. Loved it. Was always very driven. Always have been very driven. Always had a really good why, and I've always been a very big picture thinker, and that was a skill that I didn't know that other people didn't have until I actually went to a seminar, and people were talking about a guy was doing like his special gifts, and there was like 20 of us in the room, and I was the only one that my gift was big picture thinking. And I was like, really, what? You guys can't do this? And they're like, no, and I was like, wow, so that's something I am very good at, is having a look at the whole picture. Like my brain looks at the aerial shot of everything, So when it comes to goal setting and all that, and helping people get to where they want to go, that's something I'm very good at, because I can kind of put the whole, have the big picture and then work out the different segments that they need to do. And a lot of people are just very focused on this part of it. You know what I mean? Like they sort of can't see the big picture. And that when you take people into a property, and it's got a purple wall on it, and it's like, oh no, I don't like it because it's got a purple wall. They can't see what it would be like with the paint being changed, or a bathroom being changed. Some people just can't see past what's there. So that's what I've always been very good at, and then sort of had different offices in different areas, down in Wollongong and up in Sydney, and then decided I wanted a lifestyle change, and that was brought about by starting training, and that was like 15 years ago. I was very big online. Like I was doing video, like I was really like one of the only ones doing video. McGrath were doing videos, and then there was nobody doing videos back then, hardly anyone. And I worked out like 40 or 30 different ways to use video in your real estate business, something like that. And I've still got that course. And agents would ring me up all the time and say, how do you do this online? How do you do that online? And so then I developed a couple of online courses, and that's how I started training, was basically the online world. And that's what I've always loved, is marketing and all that sort of thing. So it was like when I moved to Queensland, it was something that the business I've developed is something I can take anywhere in the world. So it's, like having a physical real estate business is, you're there and you can't really, travel or do whatever. And that was the style of business I wanted. Like after I read The 4-Hour Workweek and a couple of other books like that.
Are you a fan of that one?
Sorry?
Are you a fan of Tim Ferriss?
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I loved his book. That's what I basically changed my lifestyle for. I read that book and went, oh my God. And that book, like back then, when I read that book, I was thinking, how can I implement this into real estate? And I actually wrote a couple of articles for EAC and for Elite Agent magazine, or I think it was Sold magazine back then, about the 4-hour workweek in real estate. And it was like, and it wasn't that you could really work from home back then, not like now, but that book is absolutely COVID, COVID. Yeah. 4-hour work week. You know, it's working from home, it's using technology, it's using all those things. So it's just such a relevant book now. And that book, made me change my life and my lifestyle. And it was like, I want that life. I want to be able to work from wherever I am. And, you know, so COVID suits me, you know, to be at home, because I've worked from home for a long, long time now, and worked online for a long, long time. So, so I love coaching. I love training. I love helping people. And yeah, that's me. I've always kind of been like that. Yeah.
I love, there's a couple of things I love from that. I mean, the one thing that I really like about your sort of highlight reel is you, throughout all of that, you've made changes off your own accord. Like, you've made changes based on what you want, as opposed to having changes thrust upon you, which I think's been really, really cool. And it's not something that many people can really sort of say, to be honest, right? A lot of the time, you know, and when we talk about everything that's gone on so far in 2020, there's so many enforced changes that have happened on a lot of businesses. Now, you know, you mentioned that you took over the business when you were really quite young. This sort of level of inner confidence to really have the proverbial minerals to really take something like that on. What was that? Where did that come from? Was it an upbringing thing, or was it, you know, where did that inner confidence come from?
No, something I always say to my son is, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, you know, whenever we do anything, it's like, oh, what's the worst thing that can happen? So that's been my mantra basically all my adult life. I don't think when I was a child I was like that, but certainly in my 20s I started going, okay, well, you know, I left the public service, I left a secured job, you know, it was, you know, a cushy job for the rest of my life. And it was like, no, I'm going to resign and actually go to TAFE full-time for a year and do the real estate course. And what's the worst thing that can happen? You know, so then started working in the business, and then the guy who I was working for, his wife passed away, and he came in and said to me, do you want to buy it? And he gave me a really good deal on buying it. And I'm like, geez, I'm a young female in real estate. I've been here for like, you know, I don't know, I think it was like 8 months or something. No, nothing really. And I'm like, yeah, why not? You know, what's the worst thing can happen? Whatever. And you know, and that's always been my mantra, is like, you know, if I move cities, you know, or, you know, whatever I do, it's always, what's the worst thing that can happen? You know, when my son's nervous about something, he's got a karate competition, you know, he's like, oh, Mum, I'm so nervous. It's like, all right, what's the worst thing can happen? You fall over, your pants fall down. You know, what's the worst thing that can happen? You vomit.
Pretty bad for a 13-year-old. That'd be pretty bad.
Really? What's the worst thing?
Flashing your bits to the world. That's not ideal.
I said, I'll clean it up. You know, it's fine. We'll get through it. Yeah, we'll get through it, you know. So it's always like, just, you know, just always just be saying what's the worst thing can happen, and then know what's the worst thing can happen. I can deal with that. So, yeah. It's not something I was born with. It was something that I've just gone, you know, I want to live the best life that I can. You know, I want to achieve the things that I want to achieve, and I'll do it. You know, I don't kind of make excuses for whatever. And that's something I find very, very hard, and especially coaching is very hard, because I don't take excuses. Like I just don't, you know, especially people say to me, oh, you know, I can't go door knocking now. It's like, oh, for God's sake, you know, just go and bloody do it. In my head, it's like, just go and do it. You know, what's the worst thing that can happen, you know? So, you know, excuses to me are just, no, just go do it.
Well, yeah. what I think, and this sort of ties in with something that was really sort of apparent to me when the lockdown happened sort of towards the end of March and what have you, and you know, chatting through all the directors that I work with and deal with and whatnot, in the real estate side of things, and in like business generally. It was very, very obvious which directors, business owners were absolutely fine with change. So you're just, you know, you're so cool with change. It's so obvious, right?
Yeah.
And the ones that really panicked, the ones that the facade was very, you know, smooth as silk, sort of made of Teflon type stuff. But when it came down to it, those enforced changes were absolutely terrifying for some real established people within the business world and within their own business. When we talk about everything that's gone on in 2020, I know that you're very comfortable with that whole notion of what's the worst that could happen. But have you, the conversations that I'm sure you will have had with, whether it's real estate salespeople or social media or whatever the case may be, how have you sort of managed to contextualize your message of what's the worst can happen, so that it actually provides a degree of comfort to those people, as opposed to lip service that they'll go, well, it's all right, it's all well and good her saying that, but you know what I mean? How have you managed to put that across?
I guess making people feel like they're not alone in their thoughts, because everyone was at different stages, and some are still at different stages. So not making them feel wrong for how they felt. Because it took me, like, honestly, when this all first happened, I was quiet for about 2 weeks. I thought, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to think. I don't even know what to do. I was very quiet. It was like, I need to get my head around this first. I need to kind of, I'm just going to think, no, I can see the comments come up. I didn't know I could do that. It was like, had to assess what was happening, just really had to kind of go, get my head around it, work out what I had to do, and then move forward. And some people took a lot longer to assess, assess their thoughts, assess what was going to happen. It was fine, not only health, whatever, it's also financial they were scared about. So, the two biggest things that you worry about in your life is your weight and, your health and money. So, making them feel like they're not alone in those thoughts. They had to adapt to different things. So to say, okay, well, yes, we've assessed it, and when you're comfortable, these are the ways that you can adapt. So that was very important, to give them a path, a path forward, and a plan to strategize what they're going to do. Because it's like, without a plan, you're not going to achieve anything, are you? And then just to take action, when it was right. And some of the people didn't want to take action because of, they were worried about everything else. And it was like, okay, we'll take action with a mask and sanitizer and, everything else. So, it still just feels surreal that we're talking about this, isn't it? It's like gloves and sanitizer and masks and all that sort of stuff. It still just feels,
I mean, what would you being a pretty sort of laid back sort of individual in the main, what was your initial reaction?
Well, I guess it was more just, like I said, I just went quiet, because I was like, holy crap, is this really a thing? Is everyone going to die? Are the zombies really going to come out, the way that they made it to be, and then it was like, you go down to the shops and life still moved on. It's like, well, hang on a minute. No, life is still going on, and, I just kept saying, the ones that were stuck in their houses for a long time really became insulated in their thoughts, and that the world was going to end. But once you got out in the world and saw that it was still going, everything was still moving along. It was a really interesting social experiment. Well, it still is.
Yeah, that's one word for it, right? Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to sort of take a bit of a right-hand turn and talk about a topic that I know a lot of people fear taking action, predominantly through fear of judgment and fear of reprisal and fear of backlash and so on and so forth. Obviously, we're not even talking about what's gone on recently with your recent sort of business changes and so on and so forth. Like, just the ability to set up a group and be open in your thoughts and thinking and processes and so on and so forth. That is something that a lot of people will inherently struggle with when it comes to making any sorts of changes, whether it is judgment within their office, within their team, within their family, or whatever the case may be, or on a greater sort of macro level when it comes to the social media societies and communities and so on and so forth. And I really wanted to go dig into this topic with yourself, because I think you, more than a lot of people, have been very willing to throw yourself up there and have an ability to take the hits. Now, I know that we're, again, perception of people when it comes to this sort of stuff. A lot of people tend to just say, "Yeah, nah, I'm fine, I'm spot on." Don't you? Yeah, I'm all this. But ultimately, we are all humans, and it can all have an effect at some point, right? Tell me your sort of thought processes when it comes to you putting out something new. I know that it probably comes back to this whole "what's the worst that can happen," but we've seen more recently, and at various points over the last couple of years, when people have got a little bit more vocal and what have you, that you've copped a bit of grief at one point or another, or people within your group have copped grief, and you tried to be mediator and found yourself caught in the crossfire. How do you process that, firstly as a human before, and then how do you process that as a professional?
The group's called Let's Talk About Real Estate, right? So that is the goal. It's to talk about issues, whether people don't want to hear it, whether people don't like hearing it. If I think it's valid, I put it in. And if I think it's a valid point, talk about it. So some people won't like that. And I get private messages saying, you shouldn't put that in the group, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Well, I'll sort of think, are they right or not? And then I'll make my decision. If I agree with them, I think, okay, or maybe not, Mostly I give it a lot of thought before I post it, that I think it's valid, it is valid to talk about. And most of the time, honestly, I don't care what people think. I mean, I do to people I respect in certain things. If it's somebody that I wouldn't take advice from, I'm not going to take criticism from them,
Okay.
That's been my mantra the whole time as well. It's sort of like I step back and go, would I listen to what you've got to say in my life? No, I wouldn't. So it doesn't really affect me. I always, when any of these things happen, I show my son and say, look, because, they're in the world where it's going to get more and more and more, the bullying and all of that sort of stuff and online. And so I show him those things and say, see what happens? You know what you do? You go delete, you go block, and I'll show him. I'll go, you block. That's what you do. No, I don't think about it anymore. So I honestly, I really have developed a thick skin. It really doesn't get to me. And I don't know, I really don't know how I did that. It's just, I really don't. It's like I have the ability to just shut off if I don't think it's valid. I think, oh, well, I think it's more so that I think, you know what, that's not my issue. That's theirs, and they can deal with it. I don't need to deal with their issue about that. I feel I'm right in what I'm thinking or my actions. And if they've got a problem with that, it's not my issue. They've got to sort that out,
What I really like, there's a couple of things that I really like about it, about what you said. I think the really critical piece to what you just said there is understanding how much value you're going to assign to comments that come from this person versus that person. I think that's absolutely critical in any form of life or business or whatever, right? You have your inner circle and the people that you respect and trust and what have you. But people realistically, like, people are still getting used to popular judgment. They're still very much getting used to this, or popular sacrifice or whatever you want to call it. And for a lot of people, they find it, they really, the lines between what is value to you as a human being and what is just nonsense, what is just completely irrelevant as a human, to you as a human being, that line is very much blurred, I feel. And I think what you've clearly defined there is, and this is a massive tip for people to take away, is just like, even if it's just something as simple as write yourself a list of people who, so you got a physical list there of people who you actually value their opinion of. If they come out to you, if one of those people on that list comes up to you and says, Andy, Lisa, you're being a bit of a dick, then that's when you go, oh shit, hold on, maybe I am being a bit of an arse, and that's when you take a step back. But I think it's something that needs to be brought to people's attention in a much greater detail, because it's been getting pretty vicious as people's emotions have been heightened by everything that's going on and the extra pressures that are coming around everybody and what have you. You know, barbs have been getting a little bit more, you know, close to the mark and what have you. And there's been a bit of a drift away from constructive, you know, conversation, right? It's very good. It's got very playgroundy. In this, put your professional hat on for a second, with all your nous and ability from a social media point of view. How is this going to affect those people that are just so flippant with their remarks and comments on a platform where it's going to be there forever?
Yeah, too much. Like, yeah, people just say things they shouldn't say, you know, and it's like, once you said it, you can't take it back. And I should say, like, a couple of weeks ago, well, just after I got out of hospital, there was all that stuff in my page, you know, in my group about, you know, when I joined EXP and all this sort of stuff. And, you know, I was still recovering from my operation. And, you know, then I actually did get angry for a day at a few people, but I blocked them and that was fine. But, you know, it did... I wasn't upset. I was more just felt betrayed by a couple of people that, you know, that I thought, wow, I just didn't think they would have done that. But that's fine. You know, it's life goes on. You know, so it's really just, just kind of assessing, you know, who adds value to your life, who do you want in your life, and who don't you want in your life. And I think that week there, you know, recovering still in bed from hospitals, like from the operation I didn't have to have, was, you know, and I said that night, which was really good. You know, I just said, I've reset my boundaries of the online behavior in the group, which I was too nice. I was too nice to people, not too nice to people, but I was too tolerant of some behavior. And I just went, you know what, if they're going to do that to me, like, wow, you know, so there was a few people that, you know, unfortunately had to go. But, you know, it's just, you know, I want the group to be happy and I want it to be positive and I want it to be whatever. And everybody calls me Pollyanna and bloody whatever. But, you know, it's, you know, I do want it to be a place where people feel safe to talk and to say things. And, you know, and I do still protect some people. You know, they'll go to post things in the group and I'll say, look, I'm going to post that privately because I know they're going to cop it. But I think it's a big, you know, it's a good conversation to have. You know, some of them I think, oh, this is going to get this reaction. But if one person's thinking it, you know, that's always been my thing too. If one person's thinking it, there's probably 20 other people thinking it. So it's worth talking about. It's worth that person getting that very loud feedback that that's wrong. You know, if that was their thought, because other people are going to be thinking it, you know, so some people will say to me, oh, why did you post that? That's whatever. Or how can people think like that? Well, if they're thinking, I want other people to get that very loud feedback, not to do that, you know. So, you know, and I want people to feel like they can ask questions and all that sort of thing. You know, there's people that have never been in real estate. There's people that are thinking about going into real estate. There's people that have been in real estate for a year. There's people that have been in real estate for 20 years. You know, everybody's at different levels and they're in different countries, you know. So people might answer a question and say, oh, you know, don't you even know that? But the person's in South Africa, you know, or something. They're just trying to get opinions on, you know, on their thoughts. So, yeah.
I think it's really a conversation that really needs to be vocalized a lot more with respect to, look, ultimately, as an industry, everyone you would assume wants what's best for the industry, because, you know, if they're money driven or wanting to help people driven, whatever their motivation is, it's going to be a benefit to everyone if the industry gets better, essentially.
No, a lot of people don't think like that, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly why the conversation needs to be had, because, you know, because, I mean, the thing is, you know, with a lot of stuff that gets bandied around and and thrown out there with very, very little thinking, very little thinking towards any repercussions and what have you. There's a couple of points that I'm going to make. Firstly, like I said, people just do not understand the repercussions that it will have short, medium, long term for their business, not only from a reputation point of view within the industry, but no doubt, I mean, ultimately, these people are going to be consumers in one way, shape, or form at some point. Therefore, your reputation is just going to get harmed from a consumer point of view ultimately. Now, the other thing that I really wanted to sort of gauge your sort of opinion on is the whole premise of we train as we play. And by that, I mean, if you interact like this as an individual, how are you then? It is impossible for you to then switch gears to be this really nice, cool, great to deal with human being to the consumer base, right? If you allow yourself to talk and behave that way privately on a massive social media platform, then what are you taking out into the field? Like,
you know what? I posted on my page today. I had a conversation with a real estate agent today, and talk about ego. Just thought he was a brain surgeon, and I posted in the group. I said, "Be nice to people on the way up because you might need them on the way down." Is this a true comment? Because that's all I could think about when I spoke to him was like, you are so full of yourself and your ego is through the roof that, you treat people like crap. Like some people are just very egocentric and it's all about them and they'll probably learn the lesson at some stage, but it's
with the whole topic of ego, because that's the same in any business world, right? Ego's prevalent in business. And to a lot of people, what that does, seeing behaviors like that from really egotistical types, is it can throw people too far the other way where they become too humble. And it has that sort of counter effect of making people go well within their shell, not feeling that they can be expressive because they become too guarded in the back of it. And they end up losing business because they haven't got enough of an ego to say, you know what, I'm legit. You should be giving your business to me because I am good at what I do, which requires a degree of self-confidence, right? With regard, like in terms of a message that, because you having to bear the brunt of a lot of these egos on a regular basis.
Daily. No.
Those people that really, like the ones that are up and coming, these egos destroy so much young talent, so much fresh talent that's coming through and whatnot. How can you verbalize? Like, how can you say to these people, look,
easy,
go.
All right. Like I said to my son, okay, there's ego where you love yourself. You're up here. It's so much on the outside. You've got to love yourself on the inside, and that's your confidence. That's where you get your center, you get your strength from appreciating who you are and knowing who you are and knowing you're a good person. That's the confidence. That's not ego. That's, you're loving yourself, but that's a confidence thing. That's being comfortable in yourself enough to, to be able to do those things. You know what I mean? So I think it's really, working on your inner strength, your inner confidence, then you're more comfortable to display that on the outside. Whereas most of these other ones is just look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. They want the love from everybody else, and most of those probably haven't really got it inside, So that's that's what I always say to my son. It's like you've got to love yourself, but not love yourself. There's a difference.
Fine line between
tell that.
Yeah. There's a real fine line between confidence and arrogance, right? It really is. And I think a I think consumers are becoming way more attentive to who they even allow in their home now. All right, because it's not like we are. The industry it was heading towards a bit of a Macca's style, convenience sort of fast food type level of service. Whereas now, I believe, because of everything that's happened so far this year, and I think this is a key thing to take forward if you're really going to make a comeback, is being way more attuned to the fact that these people have had a lot of time to reflect on themselves and reflect on who they are and actually hear who they are, like hear these inner feelings and how they feel about stuff and all the rest of it, right? Moving forward, so I know that you've taken this jaunt, this launch, this jump to a new sort of frontier for yourself and the boy and how you sort of set up as a business and whatnot. Two things. Firstly, I want to ask, how long was this in the pipeline, and how important was the timing of everything? Was it all this sort of in motion before COVID hit, or is it something that COVID brought you to a realization that, this is a good thing to do?
No, I was setting up, I've got my real estate training community, and while I was waiting for you, I clicked onto Sedana's interview. And I just got to the point where she said something about that if she wasn't in a franchise, she would join some kind of community or somewhere where you've got collaboration.
Yeah, the need for collaboration. 100%.
That is exactly what my real estate training community is. It's about collaboration and helping other agents, and it's training foremost, which I've been putting together for probably about the last 8 months. So, got a lot of different training, a lot of different interviews and things like that in there. Resources and things like that. But I've also set up a community part in there where there's a forum where people can speak safely, which it's just kind of been launched, I've really done a soft launch. I haven't even done a, kind of all out there because of everything that's happened, which I was due to do it. But anyway, and then I was, ready to kind of launch that just before COVID. And I was like, oh God. And then we'd already spoken about doing the XP thing. So that's, setting up people in their own businesses, or sort of their own brands. And, so it was kind of all fitting in together, like the training to be able to support that sort of stuff. So we kind of talked about it in December, but it was really kind of perfect timing for both of my new ventures. Like it was really perfect timing because people are used to working from home, so that's what EXP is. It's all, internet based and all that sort of stuff, working from home and all of that sort of thing. And the training, like a lot of agents that were, that thought they were great in sales, because the market was booming, have actually gone, oh crap, I need some training. So that's, that's been really good as well for me, to kind of have that launched at the same time where it's all kind of just slotted in together. So it was something, that we planned, but it just all kind of came together at the right time. Yeah.
So with those, look, it looks like COVID's certainly played it. And the thing is, there's a number of people in our industry and beyond that have absolutely benefited from the timing and the whole pandemic itself and so on and so. And I think no one can begrudge people of gaining some sort of level of success from it. For me, timing was fabulous, because it meant I could afford to go stay over in the UK for as long as I did, because mortgage was stopped and all that sort of jazz, right? So plenty of people have benefited in a number of different ways. Moving forward, though, you're on a bit of a wave, so you're in a different sort of part of the cycle when it comes to the emotional side of things, where you're rocking and rolling and you're feeling a bit of momentum building and stuff like that. How do you feel going into the second half of this year? How do you feel you need to play it out in order to maintain that growing level of momentum so that it doesn't sort of fizzle out? What things are you conscious of when it comes to the back half of this year?
I've always got my little plan in front of me. I've got my non-negotiables every day, like my little plan, and a salesperson I would suggest to do the same thing. You have your non-negotiables, your prospecting, whatever, mine's content creation, and, all of that sort of thing. So I have my plan. I have my whiteboards. I have everything set up that I know what I need to do. I'm very big on to-do lists. So it's, if it's up on my to-do list, then it's done, So yeah, it's just kind of just the momentum. Like, I work better when I've got things programmed in, and my real estate training community is perfect because every week I've got to provide content. So that makes me do it, like when I'm accountable, it helps me. So, if you find that you can't get motivated to do something, become accountable, and you find that you are, make it that you have to do something. So that's how I've set my life up, is that I commit to things and I'm accountable and I have to do it. And that's the way I like to be. I like that kind of structure. I like to know exactly what I'm doing on my whiteboards and have my little plan here. And, if I can't do it that day, I move it to the next day and swap things around. But basically it's, I've got my eye on what needs to be done, and I just do it.
It's definitely a lesson for me that, I've always been a lover of chaos, and even I've sort of realized that there's a limit to what you can achieve by being chaotic, right? Even someone like me, who is I am the anti-structure, but like, even I'm like going, look, now if we're gonna really progress with a solid foundation of success. So there's a number of people that have come out of this COVID thing like a bull at a gate, and really sort of scattergun their way to try and start making up for lost ground. It's not sustainable. So I think that is a fabulous thing to point out, that two things: one, the whole structure side of things in the first place, but two, and this is the main thing for me, it's the simplicity of how you're going about it. There's all these systems and magical like scripts and dialogues and blah 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 blah. But what a lot of that can do is serve to complicate the individual if they're not careful, right? So I just love the simplicity in what you do. You've still just got a little bit of paper in front of you that you've got highlighted for and all that sort of jazz. It really does boil down to the simplistic things like just getting your shit done.
Exactly. If it's on the list,
get it done.
Yeah, if it's on the list, you got to do it. But, I'm very much like that too. Like I can say, oh, look, there's a butterfly. Oh, there's a butterfly, and, I have to make sure that I finish things, because otherwise I'll have 10 different things started and whatever. Like, if I start something, I know what I'm like, so I have to finish it, getting a book done, like whatever it is. I could have 10 books going at once. I have to do one at a time. I have to get it done. Then, I've got other things going as well, but, I just need to make sure that things are completed.
Yes. Do you do as a practice, do you do time blocking?
Not really, no. Doesn't really work for me, no. I mean, well, when my son's at school, that's the time that it's kind of like whatever. But if I can't, if something comes up, then I'll be working at night. I kind of, if I can't do it then I'll find other times. If it's not that night, then it'll be whenever. You know what I mean? It's kind of, yeah.
So you don't necessarily put yourself under the pressure to, right, I need to get this done by this time. I mean, there'll be one or two things.
Sorry. Yes. Definitely. Yeah. Deadlines. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, cool. So you do. So you set yourself deadlines and say, right, I know I need. All right. Wonderful.
Yeah. Definitely. That has to be done today. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Fab. Now, lastly, before I let you go, because it is getting a bit late now, late night TSL does go on for a bit. You come across, like you said yourself that you've got a pretty thick skin, and so many of the things that you've highlighted, so many of the examples have not come from you, the business person, Lisa, the real estate owner or whatever. It's come from you, the mom. The amount, the examples that you brought through. I say to my son this, I say to my son that, and what have you. How do you think Lisa would have been had she not become a mum?
I was still very driven. I you know what? If I didn't have Max, I wouldn't have had any balance. I would have been That's how I was when I had my real estate offices, and before he was born, I was all in. Like, it was, workaholic, never had time off, just, insane, and I would have, I think, ended up having a heart attack or something. But Max kind of made me, make sure I had balance. Yeah.
And how important, I mean, I'm not going to ask you how important your son is to you, clearly. Like, that's, I'm not going to ask you a stupid question like that. But in terms of balance generally, because that's going to be a massive, massive pitfall in the back half of this year. People trying to make up for lost ground and end up running themselves into the ground. The whole upcoming mental health pandemic, if we're not careful, because of that increased level of pressure, so significant. If for those people that feel that balance might not even be achievable in the second half of this year because they've got so much ground to make up, and you say something, you flippantly sort of say, I probably would have ended up with a heart attack. How important is balance going to be moving forward when there's so much increased pressure?
Yeah, big time. But I'm talking like no balance for 14 years in my real estate office. 6 months, that's okay. You know what I mean? It's, if you've got to get in and work hard and work long hours and do what it takes, you've got to do what it takes. You've got to do that survival. You do.
Great answer.
Yeah, as long as it's not 14 years like I did, 14 years straight of not having any time off and not, little bits of time off. But if I wasn't at work, I was reading a business book. If I was on holidays, I was reading The E-Myth, or I was reading something, you know what I mean? It was like, but I just couldn't switch off. I mean, I loved it so much that I didn't really want to switch off. But, I just get obsessed, I really do. So, I've got to kind of hold myself back sometimes, that I go, okay, I better not work. I better spend some time with my son. Better make dinner. I kind of have to stop myself. But, when you love it, it doesn't feel like work either.
True. But what I really love about what you said is that, in the grand scheme of things, 6 months, 6.5 months of head down, bum up, rocking and rolling, doing the hours, getting it done. It's for one thing, working hard is like literally the number one thing that's going to be getting you through the second half of this year. I think what would be really good though to bring to the awareness is maybe acknowledging it, but then having the conversations with those around you to say, look, hey, as well as I do, I'm gonna have to work my ass off for the next 6 months. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So your boy is, your son's 30, Max is 13. Is he at that age where you have those sort of conversations where you go, Max, look, I'm gonna have to work my ass off for a bit.
Oh, big time. Yeah, absolutely. Like I'll say,
how vital is that? How vital is that to your relationship?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. He understands. He gets it. I'll say, look, I have this deadline. I have to do this, or I'm doing this, or I'm working. No, I tell him for sure. No, he knows. He knows. The best thing about being in hospital, though, was and having my operation is that he cooks now, because he had to cook. So it was so good. He was looking up recipes and all this sort of stuff and like Googling things. And so I get HelloFresh, which is the best thing ever. And he cooks that. And so, all the things he had to do because I couldn't do, like he's got no excuse now. He knows how to work the washing machine, the dishwasher, the stove.
Normally, doesn't that take guys about 20 odd years to work that out? 40 odd years.
He's a little chef now, so he's been really good. So that was the silver lining on my operation I didn't have to have, was my son now likes cooking.
All of a sudden, your boy is getting himself ready to start having girlfriends and stuff. Eh?
Exactly.
Hey? How are you going to be as a mother-in-law?
Well, I have a video about 2 years ago. My son said to me, look, if you don't like my girlfriend, I'll just break up with her, right? And I said, oh, really? He said, yeah, if I have a girlfriend, something you don't like her, I'll just call it off. So I actually got it on video. So so if ever he's with someone, I can go, Max, you said when you were 10 that you break up with her. But he also said to me about a year ago, he said, oh, Mum, I'll always want to hang around with you, wherever I go, I always want you to be there. And I videoed him saying that. Then about 6 months ago, he said to me, Mom, I'm really sorry, but I kind of like hanging out with my friends more than you now.
You've got it on record. You are mean.
Yeah, I know.
You're clever, but you're mean.
No, it's funny. No, it's like whenever his birthday, I always get him to say a video message to his 21-year-old self.
Yeah.
Or
That's
his
cool.
18-year-old self. So, it's like I've got all those videos. And so it's
That's really cool.
Happy birthday to me when I'm 18. My name, not my name, he knows his name. This is what I'm doing now. This is what I like doing. And I actually got, Max has got a half sister. And I actually got her to do them as well. And I found one when she was 10 that I did with her, 10 or 11. And that was her 21st, for her 21st, hi, Kiara.
Wow.
Happy 21st birthday to me. And, she was talking to herself and I sent that to her. And, it was cool.
That is wicked. That's what technology should be getting used for, is for really, really cool stuff like that, right?
Exactly. So played his 18th birthday, his 21st birthday. So, I've got lots of things on video that he's going to be mortified, but
Oh, I've been collecting the stuff. I've been collecting. My daughter's 5. The amount of incriminating evidence I've got to embarrass her in front of, like, I'm going to be the contraception, because no one will want to touch her by the time I'm big time. Like, serious. Look, Lisa, thank you so much for your transparency and all that sort of stuff. I'd hate to be a girlfriend to you. I'd hate, if my daughter ends up, for whatever reason, coming along for whatever reason, don't be mean.
No, no, I'm lovely. It's going to be funny. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Lisa. I really do appreciate it. I love you're so simple in everything that you're doing, but you're so upfront with everything that you're doing as well, which I think is refreshing. Which is unfortunate that it is refreshing, but it is, and it's fab. And look, is there anything else that you wanted to sort of mention to anybody that is that is really looking at the back half of this year and saying that sort of stuff, like, let's just write it off, let's just forget about it, sort of thing?
Actually, no, I did an article for Elite Agent magazine, and it was the 33 tips on how to have the best 2020. This was before COVID, nice. But that all still applies. So if you Google 33 tips, my name, Elite Agent, there's a 33 tips there, which is still very, very valid. Yeah.
And give us the website for your the training community.
So it's just realestatetrainingcommunity.com.au. Yeah.
I'll pop that up on the screen.
Yep.
realestatetrainingcommunity.com.au. Perfect. All right, gang. Guys, make sure you have a quick look at that. If you are, especially if you're an independent, like, I love my interviews. They always seem to chain link into one another fabulously. Sardana said perfectly that, communities really, really are so important. Collaboration is critical if you're going to move forward. Lisa's platform, realestatetrainingcommunity.com.au, is the place to go to if you're in the real estate world and you are an independent, you haven't got franchise support. Go and have a look at that website. It's going to be an amazing platform. Lisa, thank you so much for your time tonight. I really do appreciate it. Go and chill out now and have yourself an amazing rest of the week.
I will. You too. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
All right. Bye.